What's cracking, everyone? I'm Carl Asami.
I'm Max Cal, and this is Metro City crime capital of the world. Mike Haggar, the mayor of... Wow, this text is moving way too fast for me to read. Okay, quick summary of this story. Mike Haggar, wrestler extraordinaire, becomes mayor of Metro City, wants to clean up crime, but the Mad Gear gang doesn't like that. So they kidnap his daughter for ransom, and they basically won't give her back unless he gives in to corruption. But Mike Haggar and his friends are not going to take that standing, so they're going to take him out on the streets. And
presumably this is what's happening in all the major cities in America right now during this lockdown we're experiencing.
Right. But yeah, so this is, well, despite what the title screen says, this is actually a... Well, before I explain, I just want to show Carl something real quick. Did you know that if you hold the L button as you're pressing start, it will take you to the menu screen?
Oh man, if I had known this as a kid, maybe I would have actually beaten this game.
Another weird thing is that I can move up and down with the arrow keys, but when I try to use left or right, nothing happens, so... They have this mapped to the B and X button.
That's so
to
random.
Decrease and increase.
So, if you haven't realized by now, we're going to be playing through a few different ROM hacks for Final Fight. This is Final Fight Guy ROM hack here.
Of course, the actual title for this ROM hack is Final Fight Arcade Remix by RealGaea. And it's basically a graphical restoration hack. For you see, when this game was brought over to America, they thought some things needed to be changed. So, for example, all the gang members here, they were mostly made up of black people and Hispanics. So they decided to change them all into just an entire gang of white guys.
That's kind of a random form of censorship, but okay.
And for this playthrough, I'm playing the Final Fight Guy version, because when Capcom decided to make up for the fact that they never implemented a two-player feature, they created another version of the same game, replacing Cody with Guy.
Yeah, let's be honest, the Super Nintendo version of Final Fight's kind of the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, but another thing that they did for the Final Fight Guy version was fix some of the slowdown issues that was in the original game.
Ooh. That's good, because yeah, the original game did have some slowdown that really shouldn't have been in there, but I assume this probably didn't have the longest development cycle.
Yeah, this was a fairly early Super Nintendo release, and you know, developers were just learning about the hardware. They didn't know what they can do or couldn't do. And back then they didn't have any special chips to enhance the game in any way.
So what else does this version do? Oh, okay.
Yeah, as you can see, we got Roxy and Poison back where they belong.
That's probably the most famous omission from this version.
Yeah,
because they didn't want big burly men punching women in the stomach.
Yeah, so they were replaced by their new characters named Sid and Billy. But then later on, Capcom decided to get around this problem by saying, "Oh, it's okay. It's a transvestite. It's okay to punch them."
Yeah, that's a solution that has not aged very well.
Yeah,
and in fact might even be worse than just having him punch a woman, but yeah, I don't know.
It's one of those things that's still debated to this day.
Personally, I think, I'm an equal opportunist. I think everyone deserves to be punched in the face sometimes. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, your gender. If you're an asshole, you should be punched in the face. That's all I'm saying.
Now, if you've also remembered, this character is usually named Thrasher, but his original name is reverted back to Damned. So, yeah, what was your first early memories with the Final Fight franchise?
Well, much like you, my first experience with this franchise was actually with the Nintendo version of Final Fight, which was Mighty Final Fight.
That's right.
Which is probably one of my favorite games on the original Nintendo. Even though it's only a one-player game, as a side-scrolling beat-em-up goes, it's really well made. Good level layouts, awesome soundtrack. Really responsive controls. I
like the chibi art style.
The chibi art style actually works. They're able to get around the large sprites that this game was known for by using a kind of a chibi art style that fit within the confines of the original Nintendo's resolution a little bit better, and it works well. And then eventually, we went to enough arcades when we grew up a little bit more, and finally got to play the arcade version, which is superior to this version. But
it's got the 2-player implementation there that the Super Nintendo could not provide. Although there is leftover code within the Super Nintendo games that indicated that there was an attempt to make this game 2-player, but I guess due to, I don't know, either time issues or limitations with the hardware or
their inexperience maybe.
Yeah, they just decided to just try to meet that release date and get it out there in the best playable state that it can be.
So who was your favorite character back in the day?
Well, at the time, I was more of a Cody guy, the man who perfected, or at least was one of the early tropes of white shirt and blue jeans guy.
Yeah, white shirt and blue jeans guy was a very popular character in the 90s.
Ooh, I just got shanked there.
Yeah, I was always a Haggar guy myself, just
Yeah,
because I
really-
like the idea of the high damage output, even though he's really slow and sluggish. I know in Mighty Final Fight, that's who I always picked. So when I started playing the arcade version, I kept that up. And plus, he can do a pile driver. And not just a pile driver, but a jumping pile driver, which I thought was pretty cool.
And
Don't
just-
try it at home, kids.
And just the very fact that he's the city mayor makes him badass.
He's a pro wrestling mayor who, I mean, instead of contacting the police department or something to take care of this, he actually he's very proactive,
Yeah,
he
he
hits the
takes-
streets, he starts punching people, he's delivering suplexes. He's got to be the best mayor in any
That's right.
video game.
He tackles the city's issues head on,
Yeah,
where nobody is willing to go.
Mike Haggar, 2020. Vote for him, people.
And I don't think you've noticed this much, but one of the things they had to alter was, I mean, this game has mild blood, but you wouldn't really notice it unless you use a dagger or a sword. So when they brought it over to America, they made it sweat.
Those red pixels were just a little too much for us young American children.
And despite what Capcom might try to make you believe, come on, that guy is Andre the Giant.
He's clearly Andre the Giant.
They try to claim that they had it was based off of some friend that one of the developers had who had a similar look or something. I mean, I'm sure there was people out there that had the early Andre look with the frizzy hair and all, but come on, that's Andre. I want to at least get to the third stage so I can show off a couple of more things that this hack does right. And the guy who made this hack, RealGaea, he's made a couple of other similar restoration hacks for other games, such as Captain Commando.
Oh, sweet.
Super Probotector if you live in Europe, Mega Man 7, and he's also made some Mortal Kombat 3.
Oh wow! I was assuming it would be another Capcom game, but very cool, very cool.
I think he's made some restoration hacks for a few Game Boy Advance titles, but I forgot what games they were. I think it may have been Puzzle Fighter.
Oh, I just noticed he restored Sodom's original name.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
For some reason they changed his name to Katana.
Yeah, it was a little too biblical, I guess, so whatever.
Yeah, I often have a hard time with this particular boss because his sword slash can inflict a lot of damage. And while you can use his sword against him, the hit detection is a little wonky.
You got him though, you got him. He was, I remember in the Nintendo version he could be pretty challenging too.
I just thought it was interesting that you face this guy in a wrestling ring.
Yeah, it's kind of random. He's not exactly a pro wrestler character. You'd think they would have had him in like a, I don't know, something with more Japanese motif.
Of course, one of the most popular bonus stages, destroying somebody's car.
Yeah, Capcom was always a fan of the car destruction minigame back then. Street
Yeah.
Fighter had it, this had it. They should keep it going to this day.
Basically the most easiest way to earn points.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, that wasn't changed.
It gets me every time.
Yeah, in the arcade and Japanese version of this game, he's supposed to say, "Oh my god."
Well, you can't say "oh my god" in the American version. I didn't realize that was a change that was made. I guess invoking God again. That was just too much for the censors back then.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much you couldn't get away with with video games and television back in the day, and now, like, I mean, you could do whatever you want, basically. You can curse, you can have blood. I mean, even the most recent Star Trek series, Picard, has got swearing and some pretty graphic scenes. In video games, I mean, shoot, it's getting so realistic that some modern games give me the heebie-jeebies. This is pretty tame by comparison.
Should be getting close to where I wanted to go. Alright, here we are. Boom.
It's a bar.
The bar.
Oh my goodness.
Not the club.
This changes everything.
But that's not the only thing that was changed here. See these people in the background? Yeah, funny thing, when they first ported this game onto the Super Nintendo for the Japanese and American release, these people were nowhere to be found, and that was because of a background error.
So they misprogrammed it?
Yeah, for some reason when it loads the stage, it completely turns off that particular background layer, so there's no people back here.
I thought this looked different. Wow. So the graphics were always there, it wasn't implemented properly?
Nope. Although when they brought it over to Europe, they eventually did fix the problem.
Wow, so you Europeans out there, you guys got lucky.
That's right.
I like how unimpressed the people seem to be. No one seems to care that there's this giant bar fight going on. Involving the mayor of the city, no less. You think they would, I mean, these days they would all have their phones out, they'd be filming it, putting it on their TikToks and their YouTubes and their Facebooks.
This would fare well for his re-election.
Yeah, really. So what's your favorite home port of this game?
Well, as a commendable of a job the Super Nintendo tries to tries to be, it's clearly lacking in features, since it's also missing the industrial stage. But Sega had a very good port of the game for the Sega CD.
Yes, yeah,
that
that's
also
what I
have
was gonna bring up.
Yeah, we might do a video on that later, but maybe not in this part. Actually, we're probably gonna do a 3-part series of this. Well, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it here. No.
Oof. This has got to be one of the best game over screens of all time.
Yeah. It just makes you want to hit the start button or insert those quarters when you're in the arcade. But I think I've gone far enough with this particular demonstration. So
Let's move on to the next hack. What are we doing next?
well, like you said, one of the biggest missing features of this game was in fact the two-player feature, and we're about to play a hack that will fix all of that. So stay tuned.